Hey guys, welcome to episode 4 of the Cosmic Barbecue with me, Matt in the Real World, Mikey J. Shields, and Jim Cratchley of Dinosaur Pileup. We're talking about everything and anything. Yeah, dudes, what's up?
Well, good, man.
Pretty good. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
Good.
Mikey, you've got some conspiracies or something, right?
Well, because the podcast tagline is about us discussing anything and everything, and so far we've only discussed one thing, I thought it was time that we started talking about some other things that we find interesting when we're traveling in the van that always sparks up interesting conversations.
Love that.
I think, Jim, what did you do? You watched a film?
Yeah. I was watching, as you do, lockdown and all that. I was watching that movie, 2012, with John Cusack.
Never seen it.
Oh yeah,
it's like Armageddon or something like that, and it's all about the Mayan prophecy that in 2012 in December the world will end, and it's like a massive global catastrophic event that just sort of wipes everyone out. It's really bad.
Was it made before 2012?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know. I didn't look at the description. Sorry.
No, that's right.
It's bad, but it got me thinking, because right at the end, all the sort of people who can afford it end up on these like arcs and sort of surfing around on massive waves.
Well, like Noah.
Yeah, like Noah. Like literally, they're like carting in animals onto these arcs so that everyone can. So when everything settles down again, John Cusack can repopulate the earth and all that stuff.
So they build the arcs in anticipation of this Mayan event happening because they all believe it. Why do they all believe it?
Because of the Mayans. Don't know. They just got stuff right, I mean, we're all still here.
I do stuff because the Mayans all the time. So,
exactly.
Fair enough.
Yeah, human sacrifices on the reg.
Yeah, exactly. Well, basically, it got me thinking about how fucking terrifying it would be to be caught in a tsunami. And I went down the rabbit hole and I was reading about this one thing that happened in Alaska in 1958.
Right.
There was a massive earthquake that displaced 300 million cubic meters of rock and ice that fell into a bay called Latuya Bay in Alaska, that made a wave that was 525 meters high.
How big is that for reference?
So I don't really know.
525 meters.
Yeah, it's massive. Like
how
half
big
a
is the
kilometer.
Burj Khalifa? How big's that?
Yeah, imagine being stood at the start line of like 100-meter sprint race.
Oh yeah, like the whole track.
And it's
like,
five of those.
It's a lot, and then put 5 of those on top of each other. That is absolutely enormous.
Mike, for reference, the Burj Khalifa is 828 meters, so it's like 2/3 of that high.
Fucking hell! Just in a wave coming at you.
In a wave, yeah. So it swept the vegetation from the hillsides at that height. It went
in the 1950s. I've never even heard of this.
No, I hadn't either. It was fascinating, and like the one in 2004 on Boxing Day in the Indian Ocean.
Oh yeah,
that was
Nicole Kidman film one.
Yes, that one.
Yeah, but that was real. That actually happened.
That was real, and that was horrible.
Yeah.
But that was only 30 meters high.
What?
Wow.
Yeah, and then even wilder, there were 3 fishing boats in the bay at the time that this wave started coming out. Because it happened like inland at where the glacier finishes and stuff. So it was sweeping out towards the open ocean. And 3 boats, one of them panicked and tried to flee and was wiped out because it was like taken out to sea and stuff. The other 2 kept their anchors dropped. Both the anchors broke, but they all survived. And there was a report from one of the boats where he was at the top of the wave and he was like, my boat was like a surfboard. and I was just flying down this bay,
Oh my god!
just thinking like, yeah, okay, here we go.
That sounds
Like all the anchors
terrifying.
broke. Yeah, it's fucking awful.
That is bananas.
How nuts is that? 525 meters high.
And that was just because the amount of rock that was sort of thrown into the ocean due to the earthquake.
Yeah, so the earthquake moved along the plate, moved a glacial lake that was on the sort of inland side of the boundary. It is now 100 feet lower than before the earthquake. So the land dropped massive amount, 100 feet. And one of the guys on one of the boats said that he could see round what you would normally have to go look round the corner to see the glacier. He could see the glacier from where he was, which then retreated back. So it just moved up and down and made this. So yeah, the landslide that fell into the water came down almost a kilometer in sort of vertical height. 30 million cubic meters of rock, 900 meters.
So was there like a little village? So did it? I mean, I'm assuming that everyone in that village kind of perished or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot of people died.
Wow, that is really
so
gnarly.
the 2012 film, is that also about tsunami?
Yeah, in that because I think
that no, that's not the San Andreas Fault one, is it? Is it the one in the Atlantic?
San Andreas was also another film with the rock in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, kind of the same thing. God, they've made films about everything. Love it.
The Rock's normally there, isn't he?
Yeah, The Rock wasn't there this time, though, and that's probably why it all went wrong. Yeah. Where was The Rock, you know? Yeah.
That is bananas.
What would I do?
What would you do in that situation if you were faced with a wall of water?
Grab a surfboard.
I was going to say, yeah. What else can you do? It's mad.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I struggled to sleep after that. Some good bedtime reading, you know.
Cheery,
yeah, really cheery.
Yeah, it's cheery, really cheery. All right, Morbid Jim.
They always give you sort of reasons to panic in the media and stuff, and you know, like fault lines are one of them. And then obviously pandemics.
Yeah.
And we're just living through one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So used to the scaremongering, we just ignore it when it actually comes around.
It's not quite as cinematic as you see in the films, is it? You're just sort of stuck indoors.
Yeah.
Recording podcasts under duvets on your bed.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep on wanting to watch that film Contagion.
Yeah.
Which I think I watched I think I watched it like years and years and years ago, but I keep on wanting to watch it now because it's obviously, you know, sort of a similar deal, but obviously in the movie it's like gnarly as hell, and everyone's like, it's really, really brutal.
Have you watched the Netflix explained one on coronavirus?
No.
You should watch it, man. It's so interesting because they talk about how like the really successful viruses are the ones that don't actually like kill their host. So that's why as they mutate, they tend to last longer.
Was it specifically about coronavirus, that episode?
Yeah, it went up the other day. It's really interesting.
Right, okay. Yeah, I haven't seen it.
I'm going to have to watch that.
Obviously, Bill Gates is there talking about it because he is like the prophet when it comes to this whole outbreak. He's been talking about it for years, hasn't he?
So Bill Gates is like the Mayans in this scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, Bill Gates is rad. Like, I watched that. Or two things. I saw his, I think in 2016, he did like a TED talk about pandemics and how we were completely underprepared and this exact scenario. And he like literally laid it out and he's like, we really, really need to do something about this. And obviously no one did. And then I watched that documentary. I think there's a documentary on Netflix or something a couple of months back. I think it's called Getting to Know Bill or something. Right. And it's basically just about him, obviously, but it's focused on all the kind of work he's doing globally about like trying to eradicate polio and like all this incredible stuff. And it's just so rad, like seeing someone like with all that funding, but someone just like using it for good and trying to, you know. Because I think he's stepped down from Microsoft now, and he's like literally just trying to solve global issues and stuff.
But wouldn't you do that if you
awesome.
literally were the richest man ever? You would just be like, right, I'm going to be remembered some way or another in human history if there is one.
Well, totally.
In the future. Yeah. So why not, try and do everything in my power to make the world a slightly better place?
It's not like he's designing stuff for Microsoft anymore.
Yeah. And it's like when you have, I mean, even 1% of the money that someone like he has, what could you feasibly spend that on apart from just being like, okay, well, I'm going to make planet Earth better. Now, I was reading the other day on the news that let me get this number straight. It was.
Let me get this straight.
Get your researcher straight on it, Matt Bigland. Get the researcher on it.
I think it's called a memory, dude.
I was reading about Amazon, like every second of the lockdown. I can't remember if it was Jeff Bezos personally or Amazon, but I think they were making $11,000 a second.
Yeah, I saw that
every second since. Yeah. So I was like, it was something like they've generated 22 billion since the lockdown started, a couple of weeks back. And I was like, I hope that Jeff Bezos and Amazon are like, well, we made an obscene amount of money very quickly due to this global pandemic. Let's put some of that money back into kind of like helping out the cause. I mean, maybe they have. I have no idea, but like,
I mean, it always comes out that they tend to do a lot on the slide, like without sort of trying to get any media focus. But you always hear about these sort of small donations that Jeff Bezos makes. So it makes you wonder, like, if those ones are coming out, that might be all he's doing. But you kind of wonder what people's motivations are when they get to that level of like wealth.
Yeah.
I mean, because obviously with Bill Gates, talk about that a lot. You can't just eradicate world hunger in one foul swoop. You have to put the infrastructure in place, and that takes years, which I think is what he's been working towards.
Yeah,
like he's made those devices or whatever that you can get clean water with now, right?
Yeah. It's weird, isn't it? I saw a meme the other day. It was a tweet or whatever, and it was some dude, and he was saying that if all the billionaires in the UK gave 1% of their total wealth each, they would fund the NHS like 50 times over. Just in one, if they all were like, yeah, fuck it, let's just put 1% of our wealth into the NHS. It would have been funded years ago. And he was like, isn't it dumb that hasn't happened? And instead it's down to the people with shitty jobs, no money, 80-year-olds.
Everybody getting laid off. Some 100-year-old dude.
Yeah, trying to save the pennies and like donate to the NHS via a 5-kilometer run. It's like, what? Why is that happening? Why,
it's funny though, tweets like that could sort of gain popularity in times like this, and people will get behind it. But it's like, that's literally, not to get all political, but that's kind of what taxation's all about, about taxing certain people certain amounts if they can afford it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Netflix thing is totally interesting. The documentary was filmed, I think, a year ago to the month. So you've got all this footage of people talking about, what a pandemic would look like. And same with the Bill Gates one, and he's obviously in this one as well. They describe it almost exactly like with the events down, like happening exactly as they happen. And the type of virus and where it comes from. And they talk about bats and stuff and about how they carry all these different viruses, which they always test for. It's super interesting. And then they cut to one of the lead scientists that they were talking to, and he's just sat at home now doing like a Zoom interview because obviously shit's all gone down.
No way.
Wow. Wild, that sounds amazing.
So yeah, check that out. It's good.
Wild.
Anyone got a conspiracy?
Well, I just thought, popular ones that we tend to talk about and discuss a lot. I mean,
yes.
Matt, you're way into aliens and stuff. I know that you like getting into that. But I thought of a good one because we'd had a few arguments about this. Was the moon landings?
Mm-hmm.
So
what about them?
Did we land on the
They
moon?
didn't happen, did they?
Did we land on the moon?
I'm gonna say yes.
Nothing?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like
Here we go.
I don't know. I would probably say yeah. I think I would say yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like obviously, there's loads of conspiracies as to why we didn't, and why. Sorry, I said we, like why.
Well,
let's say America.
America, yeah.
Yeah, man. But it was like obviously the motivations to maybe make it up that they made it when they didn't was obviously due to the space race with Russia and everything. But yeah, no, I think we did.
Was this? I mean, I don't want to seem stupid, but was this directly after the Cold War, or during the Cold War, or before the Cold War?
You know what? I'm terrible at history stuff. I don't know. I think it was during, but that might be completely wrong.
It was the landing was 1969, right? Yeah. I'm just going to get my researcher on this.
Okay. Your researcher is you, right, Jim?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So something was just checking, just in case you had a little goblin doing all your research, like next to you, whatever. A research goblin.
Yeah.
We could all do with one of those, can we?
Research goblin.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Little research goblin.
I don't know if they take too kindly to being called research goblin, but
it turns out there's been a whole load of Cold Wars.
Oh yeah.
I'm talking about a literal goblin, by the way, like an actual. I'm not talking about a person that I'm calling a goblin. I'm talking about an actual goblin,
right.
just to clarify.
Where'd you buy them?
Okay.
Can you order them on Amazon?
Well, I don't know, like some sort of like the medieval sort of Amazon. You can just get like wizard shit and crystals and stuff, and I think you can pick up a goblin if you got Amazon Prime. Boom!
Next day, same
order
day.
It next day. You've got a little gobbles. Just
Whenever I think of goblin, I always think of them like an orc from Lord of the Rings. And do you remember the scene where they're getting kind of birthed in like the second film?
I don't think of it like as brutal because that's brutal.
Yeah.
I think of like a little weird green dude who's just like does tasks.
What kind of tasks?
It's kind of gross. What? I don't know. Well, for instance, some Googling on the space race or whatever, he'd be well up for that. He'd love
It's got some kind of intelligence, this goblin.
Yeah, it's like really basic, very low-key intelligence, but it's, he's happy to help. That's his role. Give him a piece of whatever, cheese or something afterwards. Cheese. He's stoked. Well, I don't know, cheese or something.
How do you know they're not vegan?
He'd dig cheese.
They might be vegan.
Well, he might be. And if he is, fair enough. Like, I don't eat cheese either, so
yeah, well,
he might be all over that. Yeah, I've got loads of tofu. If he's into tofu, we're gonna get on like a house on fire. Yeah.
Do they get sad? Did the goblins get sad over it?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I mean, it depends how you treat him. Obviously, you've got if you treat him well, I reckon a goblin would be pretty happy just doing some research.
Kind of like I imagine them having the temperament of a dog. Very little needed to keep them occupied and happy. Maybe just even being around is enough.
Yeah, and just having some tasks to do. Kind of like a Meeseeks out of
I was thinking Meeseeks.
They need a purpose. So if you give them a purpose, they're kind of happy.
But existence is pain for Meeseeks.
Existence. I love that line. I love it when they say that. I love that line, man. Anyway, if you haven't seen Rick and Morty, this is probably all lost on you. But anyway.
That was a long tangent. So yeah, basically, one of the theories that supports the whole hoax theory is that the shadows aren't parallel in the photos that they brought back from the moon.
Oh, as in there's like the light source is really close, as opposed to being like the sun or something.
Well, they go in different directions.
Yeah.
So it means there's multiple light sources.
So that, I mean, okay, I'm hooked. That is that. Okay, I'm in. That is bizarre. That's weird because obviously there only would be one light source. So how do you explain the how do you explain the multiple light sources?
Yeah, and people say that this suggests that it's the whole thing was mocked up in a studio. Don't they think that Stanley Kubrick directed the whole thing? Right?
I've heard that before. Yeah,
Yeah, I've heard that too, and also the moon dust. How much they compressed into the dust on the surface of the moon? They said that is wrong as well. There'd be far more. Sort of like when they're walking about, you see them compressing into the moon dust or whatever, like half an inch or an inch.
Yeah,
I read somewhere once that it'd be like way more than that.
Well, like there's a thicker layer of like loose dust on the surface or something that you would just go through.
There's a thicker layer of like loose stuff on the top.
Yeah.
But I mean, the light source that's way more problematic for me.
Apparently, so the answer for this is that apparently it happens even on Earth. You've all seen this phenomenon yourself, where because of perspective, parallel lines appear to be non-parallel.
Oh, yeah.
If you're trying to reduce onto a two-dimensional plane a three-dimensional situation, you can make lines do all sorts of weird things. And artists have been using this for centuries. So I don't know if that's good enough explanation for you guys.
Is it a good enough explanation for you?
I don't know.
Are you satisfied with that?
What side of the fence are you on, Mike, here?
I think...
Or are you going to tell us later?
No, I think that they did happen, because I don't think that they would have landed on the moon and then been like, here are some dodgy photos we mocked up, which you can find loads of holes in.
Yeah. Yeah. That is true. I always like that argument as well, as like, well, if we've been, why haven't we been back? You know? And we have.
Yeah, we have loads right?
Loads of times. Yeah, there was like 6 more in the next 3 years, 6 visits.
Yeah, did we land on each one of those visits?
Yeah.
But the whole thing was about whether this was actually like the first, right?
Yeah, I suppose then. But then wouldn't you make a massive song and you faked the first one and then you actually got there on the second one? Wouldn't you make more of a song and dance, or is it just not worth?
Imagine they got there on the second one and none of the footage or photos look anything like your faked one.
Yeah, so you have to come back and fake it again.
Yeah. So now, even though they've been to the moon loads of times, all the footage in it is always fake.
Yeah.
They come back and reenact it on the set.
They actually land and they're like, fuck, it is made of cheese.
Yeah.
We had all this dust in our video.
Whose idea was the dust?
Kubrick, you're fired. Apparently there's some reference to, or there's something in one of his films that points to like him sort of insinuating that he might have been something to do with it. Did you ever hear about that?
No, that sounds interesting.
I wonder if I can get the research goblin on it.
Yeah, just give him a little nudge, he'll get on it.
I hope he's better than my one.
I've got some cheese actually I could give him. The kid in The Shining, Danny Lloyd, is wearing an Apollo 11 sweater.
Which is the one that landed.
Yeah.
Supposedly. Yeah.
Which apparently is a reference to the faking of the moon landing.
When did
No way.
When was The Shining out? What year was that? Goblin.
It was released in 1980.
Just answer to the name Goblin. Mike,
come on, Goblin.
Mike responded.
I was feeling the pressure to keep this thing taken over, 1980. There you go.
Yes. Okay. I just wonder if it was. Don't
call me a goblin again, please.
Wild, man.
Okay.
One of the other theories is that the astronauts could not have survived Earth's radiation field.
Okay.
This one's been talked about a lot. It's the Earth's surrounded by a zone of charged particles known as the Van Allen radiation belt. And these are regions surrounding the Earth in a magnetic field where high-energy trapped particles from the sun tend to get confined. What this means is if you're going into these regions, they are extremely high radiation concerns.
Okay. I mean, that one's difficult to answer without
having
really thorough scientific background.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, like, many enormous things have been covered up and lied about and stuff like that. So it's not beyond the realms of imagination that it could have been faked. Even if I do kind of lean towards the fact that I think it did happen, but like the assassination of President Kennedy and stuff like that, like crazy stuff has gone down. Probably far crazier stuff than even that, but like that was pretty wild.
Yeah, there's another one. There's another one there that's saying that one of the clues as to it being faked is the fact that if all the photos and everything was really taken on the moon, shouldn't the sky be filled with stars? After all, there's no atmosphere to distort the image, no clouds to interrupt that glorious view. So the lack of stars on the Apollo 11 mission photographs prove that the event was staged.
Surely that would have come up on their on the studio setup. Is there something maybe to do with the kind of camera that was being used that wouldn't have maybe perceived that light being so dim?
Yeah, I mean, like, what about the fact that when light bounces off something, for instance, the light is obviously bouncing off the surface of the moon that they're stood on. So when light bounces off something, it would be very bright. So
Well, actually, that's pretty much
stars.
the answer of the of that claim is basically like it was daytime for them on the moon. So because it was so brightly lit by the sun, it was like we have daytime here. You can't see any stars either. So I think that's pretty much leaning towards what you're saying there.
But the thing is, I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? Because if they did fake it, like no one say they faked it. Okay, so they're in a studio being like, okay, got to make this look real, dudes. It's important we make this look real. But none of them in that room has ever been to the moon.
No.
So if they had faked it, then they're basically imagining as close to what it could be as possible, like you would in a fictional movie. When you're on set in a movie, you're trying to make that set look like an alien planet or whatever, but nobody's been to that alien planet. So things like forgetting or not thinking that there would be millions and millions of stars in the sky, I don't know. It could be details like that they would sort of overlook because they'd never stood on the surface of the moon to have the view. So I don't know.
I wonder if you can see them because they left the flag there, right? And the base of the
like the bottom of the lander or something.
The lander, yeah. So can you see that in a telescope or whatever? I'll get the Goblin on it.
Not sure.
Get the Goblin on it. My Goblin's just come back with something pretty damning on that theory as well. Okay. So if Stanley Kubrick had directed the fake moon landings, he put stars in his film 2001, which came out a year before. So why wouldn't he have put stars in the sky on the fake moon landing? There you go.
True.
So either that either says that Stanley Kubrick didn't do it, they got someone else to do it.
Apparently there's also as well, there's no telescope on Earth that would be strong enough to get decent images of the Apollo lunar modules or anything else Apollo related.
It's so convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why
did
not?
Did you guys ever watch that film? I think it was just called Moon.
Yeah, Sam Rockwell.
Yeah, I can't really remember it, but I remember enjoying it.
About clones and stuff.
No, I'm not sure. That's no. Yeah, I've seen that film. No, I'm thinking of another one, but I can't remember the name of it. That's annoying. And
what happens?
They go to the moon. Now on the moon, there's these scientists taking tests or whatever, and they take some rock samples back into the shuttle before they've left or whatever.
Oh, I think I remember.
And basically, yeah, and it was actually a really good movie. All the rocks on the surface of the moon are actually these like weird ass crab kind of creatures, and the surface of the moon is covered in these creatures, but obviously no one knows about it apart from the guys on the moon, and it's like, they kill you. It's like a thriller.
Is it called Apollo 18?
Yeah, I think it was.
Oh, that's it. Because that's the Apollo that they don't come back, and they cover up that came back, or they never left or something. Yeah, it's the Apollo mission that like nobody talks about or something.
Yeah.
Yes, dude, that's what it was called. It's really good. It was actually really, really good.
Yeah. That's a thriller. That's a horror thriller, and you watched it, and you were okay.
Yeah, I don't know. Don't know what happened there. One slipped through the cracks.
I watched The Invisible Man the other day, Matt, and I thought about you because you would have fucking hated it. It was so much suspense.
Oh God, really?
Yeah.
What's it about?
It's about a guy who works in the optics field, who's really controlling with his, I think it's his wife, and she eventually one day leaves, so he kills himself, but he doesn't actually kill himself. He stages it, and he gets into this. Well, he's the Invisible Man. He has this suit which turns him invisible, and he fucking terrorizes the absolute shit out of her.
Oh my God,
it's fucking amazing! Like,
really?
So good. Yeah, so much suspense. I'm shitting myself. It just made. What was it called? Don't Breathe.
Yeah, it was Don't Breathe that we went to see. Yeah.
So just for the audience, because we were on tour. Well, I can't remember where we were. Where were
Manchester.
Oh, was it in Manchester?
Yeah, we were in Manchester. Yeah.
We had a day off, and we hardly ever do this. We were like, fuck it, let's go and see a film. And Matt's like, I don't care what we watch as long as it's not like a horror. I hate horror films.
I'm terrible with like thrillers, horrors, like scary movies. Basically, I am the worst. I'm like a baby.
I remember being on a flight and walking down the aisle, and everybody's asleep except you. Your eyes are like the widest open I've ever seen, and you're about an inch away from the screen in front of your face.
What was I watching?
With your hands up on your face.
What was that? I actually vaguely remember that.
Was it Cloverfield you were watching?
Oh, it might have been Cloverfield. Yeah.
Holy shit. Why can I remember this stuff?
It might have been Cloverfield. That reminds me, by the way, sorry to go on a tangent, but that reminds me of a really funny time. We were on a flight, and I think it was on the way back from Japan, maybe.
Yeah.
One of the times we were over there, and everyone was asleep, but I wasn't, because obviously I'm terrible at sleeping in general, but particularly on planes. And you weren't asleep either, Mike, but you were plowing into the airplane bar, like smashing it. And I think so you were just like getting a bunch of drinks. I think I was watching a movie or something. And I actually ended up like falling asleep, which was bizarre.
It's a long flight from Japan as well, isn't it? A fucking long
big old flight. Yeah, it was like 13 hours or something.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah. I mean, that makes me think of another tangent when it took us 30 hours to get back. But
oh my God, we
remember that?
Yeah.
That was hectic.
Is that when we had to go from Thingy to Narita?
Yeah. So our flight.
They cancelled our flight.
Yeah, we had to change city and stuff. Door to door, 30 hours. Anyway, sorry. So I'm watching a film and I fall asleep, and I wake up, I guess, a couple of hours later or something. I come to, and I look across, because I was on one side of the aisle and Mikey was on the other. And I look across to Mikey's seat and it's not there. And I was like, like everyone's asleep, but where's Mike? And I look around, I can't see him. And then I look behind me down the aisle to the very back of the plane, and I see Mike with the entire flight crew. There must have been 7 people around him, like stewardesses.
About 7 people.
There was about 7 people. All the stewardesses and the like main first class dude. Obviously, we weren't in first class, but even the head honcho from first class had come down to hang out with Mike. And Mike was
he was bringing me shit from first class.
Yeah, Mike was absolutely trashed, but entertaining like the entire flight crew.
I was giving him all of my best moves.
Dude, it was amazing. I like wandered down like in a, just woken up type of state to kind of see what was going on. He was just charming everybody. Like they're all in hysterics. I was like, what is going on? I've never forgotten that image of being like, where the fuck is Mike? And then turning around and seeing him just like, I don't know, this social chameleon just like crushing it.
I remember
Amazing.
that. I remember having a particularly good time on that flight and getting on with those people. It was fun.
Yeah.
Much of it, like, quite a different contrast to, was it the last flight that we had back from America?
What happened?
Ooh.
Where they had to get me some oxygen.
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, that was the second time you died. Yes, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, have we talked about the first time you died on a podcast yet? Oh,
No, not yet.
That will be a great one.
Yet.
But I was thinking, for some reason I was thinking about the time you died, and I was like, I swear there was another time, but I couldn't think of it, and it was that flight.
Yeah. Thinking back, I can't even remember kind of why. I think I just maybe had loads to drink and not anything to eat.
And Mike passed away again. Wasn't it because had you taken painkillers for a headache or something?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'd taken anything for that time. Maybe I had. I don't know.
So all I know about that flight was the fact that I got a whole aisle at the back of the plane and put my head. I laid out as soon as the seatbelt sign went off after we'd taken off. That flight was 8 hours, and we'd just finished that Canada tour, right?
Yeah. I think that was it. I think it was a mixture of like exhaustion because that was such a fucking long tour.
Yeah, I think it was. Dude, I think it was
pretty leathered.
Man. Yeah, and I put my head down 20 minutes after we took off, and I woke up as we landed, and the stewardess was like, "I can't believe it! Like you literally slept solid 8 hours." I think we were just all boned.
Great going, especially for you, man.
Especially, I couldn't believe it. And then I walk up and find you and Ollie looks shell shocked, like 1,000-yard stare, and I was like, "What the fuck has happened?" He's like, "Mike died in the flight. I woke him up and he wouldn't wake up, and they gave him oxygen." And yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know what happened because I was asleep, and I guess you don't know what happened because you were unconscious. So
yeah, I think I just remember like. I remember like having a conversation with Ollie and then just kind of like passing out. Like I literally kind of remember losing the consciousness, but thinking that I was just kind of falling asleep. And then the next thing I knew, I woke up with an oxygen mask on my face and I was being laid down by the air stewardesses. And I was like, I'm fine. What's going on?
That's what happened the first time you died.
That's what happened the first time you
died. When you came round, you've been out for about 20 minutes and you came round and you're like, what's going on? I'm fine.
Yeah, he's so mad, so muggy. Cheers, then.
Livid.
Cheers, then, bro. You saved your life. Don't even worry about it. I don't
livid.
Where's my hat?
Yeah, I don't think we should. I mean, we're 42 minutes in. We can either get into this and this will be the rest of the episode, or we can start this on a different episode.
What, the first time?
Yeah, we could dig into the first time like on properly on an episode. What do you want to do?
I think it needs its own.
Yeah, I think it
deserves its own thing.
Yeah, I don't even know how we got onto this conversation. Where did we leave?
Yeah, I feel like we've got.
Oh yeah,
there's a whole load of unfinished stories
because it must be so frustrating to listen to.
Yeah, people would be like, "What the fuck?"
They were just talking about cinema.
Yeah,
in Manchester.
Oh, that was it.
Yeah, that's it.
Amazing. At least everyone's getting a good idea of how a conversation goes in the van. Like 50 topics at once. Okay. Go.
So we're all looking at the films and we see this film, Don't Breathe. And I think Ali knows straight away it's a horror film, but he knows as well that you're not into watching it. So he's like, yeah, it's a thriller. It's a thriller, man. So and at this point, we're all like, come on, Matt, it's a thriller. It'll be fine. Like, let's go and watch it. So you kind of reluctantly like, all right, well, as long as it's not horror, that's cool.
When you know in your gut and you ignore the feeling that you know. I remember walking into the cinema being like, this is bad, but you're doing it. Oh, God, I regret that so much.
I think then the trailers start and it was quite apparent straight away that it was a horror film because all the trailers were horror film trailers.
Even the trailers were terrifying. I was fucking scared out my fucking brain from the trailers.
And the film begins, and I think it's got quite an intense beginning, and you just hear Matt like in this deathly quiet cinema, like, "Oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god."
He's like,
really heavy breathing.
Oh Jesus Christ! Oh,
that was it. Oh Jesus Christ! It was really, really quiet.
Jesus Christ!
It was really, really quiet. Everyone obviously can handle a horror movie in that cinema, apart from me. And it was deadly quiet. And I remember losing my shit over something and saying, "Oh Jesus Christ," really loudly. And all of you guys piss yourselves.
The whole cinema is silent because the film's called Don't Breathe, and it's all about the suspense and the silence and the nature of the silence of the film.
Oh Jesus Christ.
So every now and then, you just literally hear Matt piping up to the whole room. Oh, not in there! Not in there!
Just letting everyone know my thoughts, Just letting everyone know. Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. I just can't handle it. I can't handle that suspense and jumpy vibes. Oh, just not my vibe,
I love that you're so vocal about it, though. It was fucking amazing.
Yeah. I don't even know how we got into that tangent, but
somehow from the moon landing, did it happen, yay or nay, to Matt being scared of horror films?
Yeah.
What was it? What was the link?
I don't know. We'll listen back and find out.
Okay, cool. Well, I mean, I've got conversation starters, but let's leave it for the next one.
Yeah,
okay.
Cool. Why don't we? We'll do some topics, and then we'll talk about Mike dying.
Yeah, dude, and
Sounds
that gives us the opportunity to call the episode "That Time Mike Died," which I think would be really funny.
Part 1.
It'd be a good part 1.
The first time.
The first time. Yeah. That time Mike died the first time. All right, cool. Anyway, if you guys have any questions, like I always say, shoot them over to us /Mike. Just keep listening. Hopefully, we're slowly going to get better at how we do these podcasts. I don't think we're too bad, but I think obviously we're kind of learning as we go.
So stick with us.
So stick with us, baby. We're going to get there. We're going to get there. All right. Anyway, everyone be safe. Peace out.
Peace.
See ya.